All right, ready to dive into something a little different. We're tackling language on construction sites. We've got this guide, Construction and Safety English, nouns, verbs, adjectives, adverbs. And it's got me wondering, how much do those basic parts of speech, like nouns and verbs and stuff, actually affect safety?
Well, you got to think about it this way. Out on a construction site, communicating clearly, it isn't just about getting the job done right. It's about preventing accidents. And how do you get that clear communication? Yeah, you guessed it. Those basic building blocks, nouns, verbs, adjectives, and adverbs.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. But to be honest with you, I kind of thought I left nouns and verbs back in school. Like how does all that grammar stuff actually play out on a real construction site?
Let's start with verbs. Okay. You might think any verb will get the point across. But on a construction site, being precise with those verbs, crucial. Like, take secure versus put when you're talking about, say, scaffolding. Big difference, right?
Yeah, for sure. Secure, it just, it leaves less room for someone to misinterpret, like you know exactly what needs to happen.
Exactly. That level of precision, it can literally be the difference between, a job done safely and an accident waiting to happen. Remember May from that case study, lifting heavy objects?
Yeah, I think so.
She's lifting those heavy bags of cement, right? But she's not bending her knees. Talk about a recipe for a back injury. Ouch.
Yeah, I see where you're going with this. If her supervisor had told her to carefully lift instead of just lift, maybe things would have gone differently.
Exactly. And that brings us to adverbs, those little words. They can drastically change how an action is performed. Think about instructions for heavy machinery. Slowly lower the load compared to lower the load. Subtle difference in the words, but could have a huge impact on safety.
I'm starting to see it. It's like those little adverbs add a whole extra layer of, caution and precision. But what about nouns? I feel like those are pretty straightforward, right? I mean, a hammer's a hammer.
Well, nouns are definitely the building blocks, yeah. But even with nouns, there's room for things to go wrong. Think about safety signs. They depend on clear, straightforward nouns to get those crucial messages across. Remember Carlos, the new worker who forgets his helmet?
Yeah, vaguely.
So his supervisor, he just points at the sign, simple, helmet required. And it clicks for Carlos, The noun helmet is clearly linked to a safety rule.
It makes me think about how often on job sites you hear kind of vague language. Do you think that ambiguity is a common cause of safety issues?
Oh, absolutely. And that's where adjectives step in. They help us move beyond those vague descriptions and get into those specific details that are so crucial for safety. Like in that slippery floors case study.
Yeah.
Ahmed, right? He sees someone slip and boom, tells the supervisor the floor is slippery.
It's not just dangerous, right? It's that precise adjective, slippery, that really helps everyone understand exactly what the hazard is.
Exactly. Ahmed being precise, it lets the supervisor take action immediately, prevent more accidents. It really shows how those adjectives, they paint a vivid picture of potential hazards.
You know what I'm noticing? It seems like those adverbs, they're really important when you're dealing with big machinery. Like adding a simple slowly or carefully can really change how someone does a task.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. They add that nuance, that extra layer of detail. It can be crucial for safety. Think about it, right? Lift the beam versus lift the beam steadily. See the difference?
Yeah, totally. The second one, it emphasizes control, precision. It feels way safer.
Exactly. The guide even says adverbs are especially important when you're dealing with tasks that need a specific pace, or a certain level of attention.
That makes me think about all the safety warnings and procedures you see on construction sites. Do you think those could be better, safer, if they paid more attention to those specific verbs and adverbs?
Absolutely. The way those instructions are worded, it can be, really important. Using clear verbs and adverbs, making sure they're easy to understand, that can make all the difference.
It's like instead of operate the crane, the instructions could be operate the crane cautiously and smoothly. See, adding those adverbs makes it way clearer, right? Like you can picture exactly how it should be done.
You got it. The guide even suggests using visual aids right alongside those written instructions to reinforce the actions, especially when you're dealing with adverbs like carefully, slowly, or firmly.
That makes sense, especially for workers who are, still learning English. Combining visuals with clear language, that could really help.
Exactly. It brings up another important point, actually. Being sensitive to different cultures on construction sites, not everyone speaks English fluently or understands certain phrases, right? It's something to keep in mind.
Right, of course. So how do we make sure everyone understands, especially when you've got teams with people from all different backgrounds?
Well, one thing is to skip the slang, right? And any jargon that might not be universal. Stick to clear, straightforward language. Focus on those essential actions and safety procedures.
So it's like speaking a universal language of safety,
Yeah.
something everyone can understand.
Exactly. And it's not just the words themselves, right? It's also how we say them. Your tone of voice, body language, eye contact, it all matters.
I never thought I'd be analyzing my communication skills on a construction site, you know? It's pretty fascinating.
It's all connected. We take communication for granted. But on a site like that, where safety is so important, every word, every gesture, it can make a difference.
This whole deep dive, it's really made me think about how we can all communicate better, not just on construction sites, but everywhere.
You got it. The things we're talking about here, clarity, precision, being aware of cultural differences, these are important everywhere, not just construction.
I've been thinking about those visual aids. They'd be so helpful, right? Especially for those tasks with lots of steps or when you need to be super precise, like almost like a safety picture dictionary.
Exactly. And they don't need to be anything fancy, you know? Simple diagrams or pictures can do the trick. Help clarify things, avoid misunderstandings.
This whole thing has been a real eye-opener for me. Clear communication, it's not just about the right words. It's about making sure those safety messages get through, you know?
Yeah.
Making sure everybody's on the same page.
You got it. It's about creating a culture where people aren't afraid to ask if they don't understand something or if something seems risky.
So it's like, yeah, it's about speaking clearly, but it's also about really listening, right? Picking up on those subtle cues, those verbs and adverbs we talked about, they can really signal a hazard.
Absolutely. Active listening, it's huge when it comes to safety. Paying attention to how people say things, their body language, everything. Making sure you really get the message.
This deep dive, it's really changed how I think about language. It's way more powerful than I thought, especially on a construction site.
It's amazing, right? Those little words we learned about back in school, they can actually prevent accidents. They can save lives.
It's not just about grammar rules. It's about knowing how to use language to make things safer.
Well said. This guide, it's all about thinking about the language we use on construction sites and seeing those words, even the simple ones, as tools to build a culture of safety, to make sure everyone understands each other.
So let's say we could magically change how people communicate on sites. What would that look like?
Well, I picture a place where everyone is using clear, simple language, where safety messages are everywhere and people are really paying attention, and where everyone feels comfortable speaking up.
That's a great vision. It's like language becomes a tool not just to build buildings, but to build a culture of safety where everyone's looking out for each other.
And that's something worth working towards, right?
Absolutely. So to everyone listening, take what we've learned today and use it. Pay attention to how you communicate, listen to your colleagues, and never underestimate the power of clear communication. It can make a huge difference.
Remember, safety is a team effort, and it all starts with understanding the impact of our words.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the world of construction and safety English. Until next time, stay safe.